Did Dimitri actually just destroy saves? And what about these other units? Where do we use them? And what are their best builds? We're going to answer a lot of those questions here, but I need to know in the comments, who are you most excited about? Who is the unit that you have built up and ready for this refine? Let me know. But first off, we need to talk about Dimitri.
I'll destroy you!
Fallen Dimitri was this slept-on darling when he came out because the big thing was Canto, and Canto on infantry units was just incredible. The rest of it was not great, but anyway, we had Naginata that helped us with Brave and some true damage, and Vengeful Lance went by the wayside until now. Let's look at what this refine looks like, but first I want to draw your attention to Murderous Lion and say, I'm so sorry, but you have been more than power crept by an emblem ring and will not be used in any of these builds. Let's get to it. Vengeful Lance. We have Slaying, attack +3, start of turn on nearest foes, and splashed 2 spaces from them. You get speed defense -7, panic, and undefended on those foes through their next action. Then at the start of combat, if unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25%, you get a bonus equal to attack speed +6, plus 10% of this unit's speed, and 100% special piercing. As far as combat effects, if unit initiates or is not adjacent to an ally, you get attack speed +6, neutralizes units' attack speed penalties, true damage of 25% of attack, and 50 if the unit cannot make a follow-up attack. Then you get preempt pulse of a cooldown of -2, depending on whether the unit can make a follow-up attack. What does this mean? And the biggest thing is that undefended status, which is good for this unit. And as a support, we've seen units like Bridal Embla come along and do a lot of good, but this unit actually puts out a lot of true damage as well. So we've got some really interesting pieces here. How do they stack up? And I'm going to look at, I've started thinking that I would divide this into 2 separate builds, and one is the budget build and the other is the max invest. I want to talk about the max invest first, and what we have here is kind of the standard thing we've been looking at with some few changes. Haze Slice I still think is the go-to special. The additional damage reduction is nice, and the additional boost damage is also great. For the A skill, you get attack speed, Hex Edge. This is a new one. Keep in mind, this is the max invest. This is very premium and on 1 unit right now. And this has Anathema and attack speed +7 and then 5 true damage. So there's a lot of great things, as well as 50% piercing, but we don't really care about that for this build. Past that, Potent Finish is probably my favorite melee nuke infantry thing right now. And then Brutal Tempest, so that we get both the range and the ability to Canto away. Past that, we have attack speed clash 3, and then Times Pulse Echo. Again, this is premium, but it does really help with Haze Slice, so keep that in mind. I'm going to show you what this turns out to be, but the budget build for this unit still does a lot of the same things, and because you have undefended, it means you're not necessarily going up against their biggest and baddest, which is nice. In the end, that means Moonbow will really do you just fine. Haze Slice is a nice to have, but if you're not going up against the most powerful unit on the board, this unit does it in a pinch. I've decided for these budget builds, I'd pick 1 premium skill, and Sly Swift Sparrow is the thing that you would want. That extra true damage goes a long way. I know a lot of people really like the perfect attack speed, and it's good, but you're really trying to get as much true damage as you can possibly get out of this unit. But Assassin Strike and Inside Attack Speed is actually on a lot of units right now. The difference between these is not huge, but I want to show you what you get out of the max invest. The big point I want to make is this is one of those units where if you wanted to build them budget, you can. You don't have to push them to the absolute edge because of that undefended status. Let's look at the max invest build and see what you get out of this though. A true damage of 47 is very nice. The boosted damage is a little low out of Haze Slice here, but 37 is still good enough. The big thing you want to pay attention to is that flat DR of 7. This is why I have the Erica ring on him. I really think you're going to want to be able to hit as many times as possible, and I mean, Erica Ring is just amazing on melee nukes. What this really means is this is a unit that can actually compete, since he doesn't have to go up against the latest and greatest near save. He's probably not going to be able to take out BK, and especially with that flat DR, it means he's probably going to just get wiped off the map if BK can retaliate. But you don't necessarily have to in this case, and that's very nice. Undefended is very powerful in a lot of different ways, but keep in mind, Freyr can cleanse it. So if you're wanting to use this unit on offense, things go a little different way. Before we get to the recommendations, I just want you guys to take a quick look at these desk mats. I have the Lucina one, it looks amazing, but we have Edelgard and Alm and Milla, and they're all pretty spectacular. If you have ones that you would like, leave in the comments. I do have a bit of a backlog that I'm working through, but let's get back to it. The link is right above me though. Click that and go check out what we have in the store. As far as my suggested build between the two, I'm gonna tell you can go budget here. I think that is just fine because of the way this unit plays. If you're asking me how I want to build him though, it is absolutely the max invest, but that has a lot to do with favoritism. I still think you get a lot of oomph out of this unit with really just one premium skill on there. Dimitri fans should be very happy with this refine.
Allow me to assist.
Nanna fans are feeling a little different, and I'm here to tell you this is salvageable. I've heard a lot of big naysayers right now. There still is a lot of true damage coming out of this unit, and because of that, you can still do some things. But understand that this is definitely not the absolute most broken thing that well, at least I was hoping for. Let's go over exactly what we're getting out of this. And the first is a refine. This is a fairly simple refine. You get attack +3, and then to unit and allies within 2 spaces, you get null bonuses and Hexblade. I would have liked something other than Hexblade. Hexblade is just really not where it's at in the meta. Most of the big tanks right now have very balanced stats because they are dropping speed. There aren't a lot of speed-based units. When you have a speed-based tank, it means that those points are coming from somewhere. Normally they either sacrifice speed or defense, and since we don't have any of those, Hexblade is really just about worthless right now. And at start of combat, if HP is greater than or equal to 25%, you get attack speed +6. You get null follow-up, which is very good. Special piercing equals 100%, and then prevents foes special triggered by unit's attack. And that is the whole stopping Pavis and things like that, which really in Arena is not great. And this is an Arena unit, so in some ways, this is kind of wasted points. Ira is just going to do her job better right now, but it's still not bad, and that is a nice niche to have. Past that, you have Restore 7 HP after combat. Start of combat, if initiating more than 2 spaces of an ally, you get an in-combat buff of 12, and then true damage equals 20% of your speed, which is nice that that's uncapped. This is pretty tame. It is okay. It is about the bare minimum you could have for a refine. Let's go back and look at the remix though. This is Hother's Zeal 2. We have Canto remaining +1. Then at the start of turn, it inflicts speed defense -7 and exposure on closest foes and foes within 2 spaces. The reason this is good, whereas most of the time I say this is not good, is because of the fact that in Arena, you don't have Freyr cleansing things. So this is something where you will actually have the units you're targeting keep that exposure, and that is very, very valuable for your team. Past that, combat effects, you get a 20% true damage off of attack, and then inflicts speed defense -5 on foe, null penalties to attack speed, and of course desperation. All of those are excellent. Will this unit stop BK? Probably not, but let's look at builds here. So again, I have kind of the max invest, and instead of the budget here, I've got the Arena build. Arena score of 762 is still fairly respectable. The distant counter M seal does let her go just a bit higher. Let's look at the max invest though, and this has some interesting pieces to it that you can sacrifice on basically. Haze Slice, we've talked about it. It's one of my favorites right now. Blue Skies 4 has Canto in it, and so does Hother's Zeal, but it has 3 more true damage than Slice with Sparrow. That doesn't sound like a lot until you start thinking about Desperation plus the Erica Seal. And so it's 3 true damage hitting 4 times. And that is not insignificant. So that is a pretty fantastic thing. I'm not going to say it's 100% worth it, but if you are a Nanna fan, that is definitely something you're looking at. Past that, we talked about Hother's Zeal. I do think it is very usable. And then attack speed in Sight Hone is the premium C skill and gives you a lot of additional stats. I have Blade Session 3 up there. I don't know, I was feeling spicy. Most of the time for any kind of arena stuff, I prefer attack speed Clash, to be completely honest with you. But Blade Session, or for even what she has, attack speed Prime is actually very, very good. The budget build. Okay, so we talked about Slice with Sparrow, which, I mean, it's pretty much the one thing I'm giving her here. Ruptured Sky is not hard to get right now, and it's got 2 cooldown. And remember, this weapon does not have slaying. So this allows you to get attacks off earlier. We've already said this unit is not taking out BK, so you can focus on the remaining big tanks right now, which are all dragons and beasts. And this unit can do a lot of good in there because the Hardy Bearing Seal does not score. You can see almost everything about this unit is really geared towards arena. I have kept even attack wave in there, but keep in mind it does have an attack check, and I am not the biggest fan. That being said, I mean, 67 attack is still good, and you do get a lot from the weapon. It's just something you have to watch out for. Some of the newer units, like BK, often create problems. But let's look at the stats for the max build here. And I am including exposure since it comes in her kit, which does mean that I'm looking at an arena build here. So for the damage analysis, we're getting 49 true damage. For the type of unit this is, you really wanted her higher than that, but I do think that's going to be enough to take out a lot of units. I don't have this as a fact, but I have a feeling you'll probably be able to take out Neathogre, and I believe you'll be able to take out Rhea, but you would probably have to switch out the C skill for Fatal Smoke at that point. What I usually find is I would rather have attack speed in Sight Hone and get the extra stats, and all of the other units on the board will fade away. The boosted damage is very low though, and I was less than happy with this. It is just not something she has a lot of, and a lot of that has to do with the specials that I'm running here. So I keep that in mind, but for the most part, you're not going to get a lot of boosted damage, and you don't get a lot of flat DR. In the same way that Dimitri was, this unit is trying to get all of her hits out, and if you hit back, then she's just toast. So what am I recommending? I honestly think that if you are going to be using this unit in arena, you probably want to max invest. If this is a score bot, score bots are the type of units that tend to stick around quite a bit. If you've got Nanna at +1, then by all means, the other budget build will do just fine. But for those of you who have this unit and are using her in arena whenever she comes around, I think this is going to be the way you want to go.
Suffer as I have.
Embla is difficult because I think we would be talking about her differently if she was in a different season, just flat out. The problem is she is competing a lot with Luthier and Loki. And if you're asking me if I'm going to field this unit over either of them, the answer is a definite no. It's just not going to happen. But this is still a very interesting refine and remix. And I want to talk about Enclosing Claw first. We have Slaying. Slaying. Why couldn't Nanna get that? I don't know. But anyway, Slaying. Start of turn. If adjacent only to beasts and dragons, you transform. And if you transform, you get attack +2, +1 movement, which is nice, but we've seen this before. If HP is greater than or equal to 25%, you inflict speed defense -7, Discord, and Schism on closest foes and foes within 2 spaces of that. So that is actually pretty good. This is something. This unit is definitely trying to take out Saviors, and despite Luthier's best effort, Saviors still are the biggest enemy phase scheme going on, just because mobility is crazy. It is so easy to forget something and just get walloped, and it's frustrating. That's the biggest thing. So this is very good. Discord is great on clumps of units, and Schism is always nice. Then we get Start of Combat. If HP is greater than or equal to 25%, you get an Omni +5. You inflict attack, speed, defense -9, null follow-up, and null guard. And then you inflict guard on foes. They've given out so much null guard. I mean, this unit has null guard. I don't understand why they're wasting space on this. It is so common right now. At the start of combat, if transformed, you get an Omni +2, and I've written this a little weird. That is raw stats there, so that is why it's not 14. And actually, an Omni +2 is not bad. That's in total 4 extra attack, and then 2 to everything else. That's nice. Past that, you get a dull all, a true damage of 20% of speed, and a flat DR of 7 on the first attack. I feel very similar to this one as Nanna. I think in the season she's in, this is kind of a minimum, and if you're going to be using Embla, this isn't bad. But let's look at Severance, because this does have some things that, while are not necessarily new, are still very good. At start of turn, inflicts undefended and feud on foes within 3 rows and 3 columns. We've known this. Null penalties, and grants dodge to unit. Dodge. There's so many effects in this kit that I'm like, what is this from 4 years ago? But anyway, as far as combat effects, if transformed, you get attack speed +5, you deal +7 damage, and you get preempt pulse, which is nice. And then transformation bonuses, you get an easier transform. I'm not going to read all these words. It is just easier for this unit to transform, and that's a good thing. So let's look at some build options, and I've got my 2 here. Let's look at the max invest first, because this is a lot of fun. You don't have to do a fortune skill because you have the beast transformation stuff in Severance. Trample is the skill. It is really nice on flyers. You combine that with Speed Taker, and you've got a lot of damage coming out of this unit. I looked at some different beast skills, including some of the beast ones. I think for this unit specifically, I do like Speed Taker 4 and then Nimble Beast, and really double down on how much speed you can stack on this unit, even though I've got the attack boost there. But most of the units that this unit is going to be going up against are slower. She's really not going to compete against faster Omni tanks. You have other units in your group that can do that. But yeah, I think this is a good way to go. Then you have the budget build, and are you guys tired of me saying Sly Swiss Sparrow? It's the one premium thing I've put on here, and honestly, it's true damage. I don't know how many times I can say that. It is the biggest factor as to whether a unit is going to win a matchup. It's huge. I do have on both of these the Celica seal. I think this unit can really sneak up on you if there's not a save nearby. And hopefully if you use this unit, then you have, taken out the saves and you're not really as afraid of them. Omni tanks, you're just going to have to come up with a different way to attack them. And honestly, there are a lot of different ways to attack Omni tanks right now. But let's look at the stats for this max invest build. So here's our damage analysis, and this is disappointing to say the least. This unit is going to be better as a cleanup unit. True damage of 30, boosted damage of 45, and not much flat DR. It's just what you've got. There are ways that you can, boost things up. You do have Nimble Beast, which gives some unpierceable DR, which is nice. And you could give, for instance, Excel and some other things. What I have found is that in most cases, it's not really worth stacking up flat DR unless you're a tank. The gulf between units that can survive a modern armor with Erica Ring is just wide. So I'm just assuming that I'm not going to worry about it at all, and I'm going to stack up Trample, and I'm just going to go grab things. As far as what I'm suggesting, I do think this is a budget build case. I think because of the season she's in right now, if you just gave her Sly Swift Sparrow, I think that'd be nice. I don't have Trample on there, even though that would be a one thing, but it's on one unit, whereas Sly Swift Sparrow is on a lot of things. So I keep that in mind. Attack Speed Excel is another option and definitely a way you could go. I do like Luna because of the way this unit works. I think you'll be able to get that off pretty easily, and it does hit a bit harder than Moonbow. So this would be my suggestion for you if you're looking at building.
I'll accept your surrender.
I just finished an FE7 playthrough, and I wanted Pent to be so much better than this. He was my boy in that game. Athos, Pent was where it was at. But anyway, we have Tome of Reglay, and this guy's okay. We're going to talk about it. This guy has some definite use cases, and we have an interesting stat line. Let's look at Tome of Reglay and just kind of, go through this. We have attack +3, and at start of turn, you get attack speed +6 and no penalties to unit and allies within 2 spaces. This is going to be a common theme. This is a pretty decent support partner. For unit and any support partner, magic, or staff allies within 2 spaces, if special cooldown is at its max, you get -2. If it's not at its max, you get -1. This was a big thing when he came out. At the time, you could rig it to where he was giving the entire team cooldown. And I even had a defense that I took from Infantry Pulse at the time and had 2 of them. And was getting, AoE spamming just everywhere. It was a lot of fun, but now AoEs aren't as great, but specials are still very powerful, and this unit can help your team out a ton. At start of combat, you get attack speed +6, defense res +5, flat DR of 7 on the first hit, and null guard. At start of combat, if unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25%, you get a bonus of Omni 11 and true damage equal to 20% of speed, and then 50% special piercing. This unit is going to want to hit with a special, and then hit with a special, and then hit with a special. It's just, this unit has always been a special spamming god. Okay. When we're looking at the builds is when the differences really pop up for this unit, because what you really want this unit to do is to be able to function without AoEs. And in order to do that, you kind of have to max invest. Ice Wall is an incredible special, and 70% of res is really, really powerful, even when you only have 42 res. And I know you're getting stuff from you're getting res from other pieces of this kit, but still, 42 res is not insane, and Ice Wall is still this unit's best special. We have Sly Mirror. I mean, eventually folks are going to get sick of me suggesting Sly on things, but it hasn't happened yet. I might get in the comments, though. Speed Res Lull Finish is super premium. It's on 1 premium Nino right now, and it is really good, although you might just want to use that Nino. Still, this is a fun skill to have and gives true damage and lull, and it's fantastic. And then Silence Ward, I kind of wanted to double down. This unit is fantastic at support, and so that's just one more piece where you are both a strong nuke and you're willing to support, and then you have attack res finish because of the extra true damage. If you are going to build this unit budget, you really need to look at AoE. And that is just a thing. And this is kind of scalable here. Blazing Flame, Life and Death 3, although Verge of Death would be better, but Life and Death is free. Occultist Strike is probably my favorite budget B skill, and I'm going to use budget lightly. There are a lot of units that have that, so it's not too bad to get. I've got Times Pulse 4 on here, but honestly, you could use Times Pulse 3 and it would be just fine. And then an additional Life and Death 3 just to, 70 attack is not anything to sneeze at, so especially at a +1. This unit is doing pretty good, and that's without any flowers, too. You could add on an additional good amount of attack just by adding in flowers, although flowers are very expensive. So, if you are doing budget, then you've got to go AoE, and there are a lot of things that block AoEs right now. If you're going max invest, you can do some crazy shenanigans and actually have a lot of fun with this unit. Let's take a peek. If we're looking at this, you get 36 true damage, which is a little low, but not bad, and then 62 boosted damage because of Ice Wall, and the combination of those two means that this unit is going to be able to take things out. He's just not going to be a premier nuke. you're going to have him as a support and then as a follow-up unit. And then flat DR is, out the bottom, but that's not terrible. This unit is really not meant to be anything tanky. As far as my suggestion for this unit, I think if you're going to be using this unit, you have to buy in and you have to go all out. I will say you can do some different things with the B skill. Even if you just went Occultist Strike here, I think you'd be fine. And Silence Ward isn't necessary. Even if you did, I like supports on there, but there are some other things you can do, like you can do that Times Pulse and get Ice Wall off more reliably. But also, if you wanted to do Infantry Null Follow-Up, I still have a huge love of that skill, and I think you can get a lot of use out of that. This is the max build. The medium build would be this plus Occultist Strike and Infantry Null Follow-Up. So there are a lot of fun things you can do with this unit, and I do think he's very usable.
I will not allow it!
Aelfric kind of snuck up on me. This is not a bad refine. I thought it was a lot worse. I'll say that. But there are some interesting pieces to this, and let's just look right at Cardinal's Tome, because this base kit, there's not much to look at. So Cardinal's Tome, at start of foes combat, within 3 rows and 3 columns, you get 10 pre-combat damage. That's just burn damage. There are ways around that, but that's still pretty nice. That is not bad at all. You get inflicts attacks res -5 on foes during combat. So keep in mind that is like the Triandra, so you're actually supporting your team in that way. Anyone within 3 rows and 3 columns gets an additional 10 burn damage and an additional attack res -5 on the foe. At start of combat, you get a guaranteed follow-up and a flat DR equal to 7. As far as passive effects, you get heals 10 HP to allies within 3 spaces after their combat. And then if within 3 spaces of an ally, you inflict attack res -6 on foe, you get a true damage equal to 20% of res, and special cooldown +1 per attack, and restores 10 HP to unit after combat. So, it's not bad. This is interesting. I didn't realize how much I could pull out of this unit, though. So, I've got 2 different builds here. Both of them are kind of the supportive nuke archetype, but we've got a lot of interesting things in that realm. So as far as the max invest build, we have, of course, Cardinal's Tome, Ice Wall, and you're going to be seeing a lot of Ice Wall on nukes. I think it is a very, very good special for units that can stack res, and 50 res is really not too bad. You've got Sly Mirror, you've got Attack Res Havoc, which keep in mind has true damage in it based on res, and that is nothing to sniff at. That is pretty good. And then Silence Ward 4, although we just talked about it, and there are lots of different things you can put on these nukes. I just think that is the most premium and probably the best right now. Past that, Attack Res Finish 3, because true damage. The budget version of this is basically stacking res. And I mean, you can see like this is a +1 with no flowers. And the max invest is a +10 with 20 flowers with summoner support. And this one still has 2 more res because you've got Stillwater and a Stillwater Seal on there as well. But that usually is enough to get you Sabotage AR. And I've got that one in there, but most of the time people have it somewhere in their barracks and it's some version of Sabotage, and any of the versions will do there. And Infantry Null Follow-Up will always be very handy depending on your team composition. For the max invest build, you're getting 39 true damage, which is not bad. And because of all that stacked res, you get 60 boosted damage. So honestly, that's pretty decent. Past that, you get a flat DR of 14, and I mean, this is usable. Like this is not too shabby. As far as the build suggestion, it's kind of the same vein as Pent. If you are going to be using this unit, I don't know that the other version adds anything to your barracks that is different or unique. Whereas I do think this is something that could be an interesting support for your team. So this is a way you can use this unit: Sly Mirror, Attack Res Havoc, Silence Ward. One of the things you can do is just drop Sly Mirror altogether and just go with Stillwater like the other one, or Crystalline Water, and really stack up the res to make sure that Attack Res Havoc and then the true damage from Ice Wall really gets going. So with 70% that Ice Wall gives you for the boosted damage, it is not a terrible idea to stack up res. So just know that that is another way that you could build this unit.
Don't underestimate me.
I think we were all wondering whether Luthier was going to get the same treatment as Urk, and the answer is no. He absolutely did not. This is still decent, and if you want to use this unit, I think there are ways you can. At start of combat, if unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25%, you get attack speed, defense res +5, true damage of 15% attack, preempt pulse, flat DR equal to 7, and restore 7 HP to unit after combat. During combat, with foes within 3 rows and 3 columns, you inflict attack speed res -5, null bonuses on attack speed res, and then inflict special cooldown -1 per attack. Guard. Again. Guard. I don't know. This feels like the theme of this is we're going to give everyone guard because it's the most powerful skill out there and it's not on a seal. If we're looking at build suggestions, as far as the budget build, I really do think Slice with Sparrow, Occultist Strike, and Times Pulse 4 will work. You've seen that before, but I think this is a way you can go, and it's pretty handy, and it works, and it's tried and true. We talked about maybe Times Pulse 4 isn't exactly budget. Times Pulse 3 will work just fine for what this unit wants to do, and I'm assuming that Occultist Strike is easy to get. If I'm picking between Occultist Strike and Slice with Sparrow for this unit, I would probably go Occultist Strike and then find some other A skill. There are quite a few A skills you can get on infantry units right now. The Max Invest build is something you've seen pretty similar to Ice Wall. I've got Crystalline Water on this one just to really stack up res. This unit does have some decent res. We're getting up to 57. I decided not to mess with that and just kind of roll with it. I have Silence Ward on so much stuff right now. Understand that is... Again, it's the most premium. I don't even think it's the most necessary for most of these units, though. There are a lot of other options you can do, like we talked about all of the Times Pulses, and in particular, I think it's Times Pulse Helm has the attack res version. So that's something to look at if you want to go like pure offense, but Silence Ward does have some really nice support to it. For this unit, I don't know that you get an appreciable difference between the budget build versus the max invest. I would probably go for something more like this. I don't see a big payoff where I did for some of the others. There were some other things you could do. I don't think this unit is going to hit quite hard enough for anything past this. So, Luthier fans, there are ways you can use this unit, but you're going to need some support.
Here's a fun idea.
Kaden fans, I made you wait till the very end, and I like this unit a lot. I think most people are going to be talking about Dimitri. I think this might be actually the most usable of the refines in this batch. Let's talk about what this unit can do, though. So we have Refreshing Fang, we have speed +3, and then you have your standard Beast Transform, which has some interesting stuff in it. But then if transformed or foe's HP is greater than or equal to 75%, you get attack speed +5, inflicts attack speed -5 on foe. You get true damage equals 20%, and it includes AoEs. Pent did not include AoEs, the AoE master, but this unit does. Anyway, no follow-up. Past that, if you're within 3 spaces of an ally, you get an Omni +5, a flat DR of 20% of speed, and then a special cooldown charge +1 per attack. So here's where things get interesting, and this is to all allies within 3 spaces. You get Projected Bonus Doubler, which is that thing where you have your bonuses apply to your ally. And then we have true damage equal to 50% of units' total visible buffs. And keep in mind, we normally guess that that's going to be in the realm of 24 total bonuses. That's a +6 to everything. So that is going to be 12 true damage that you're giving out within 3 spaces. I'm not saying that other units haven't been able to do this, but that is a very nice effect, and I want to talk about a build that really takes advantage of this because Cavs have Detect. So, first off, you have just the budget build where you can, the miracle in this case is just for survival, just flat out, and then you have the Micaiah ring so that you can cleanse things as well, and really get an extra action is probably the biggest thing past that. Attack speed catch is what it is, and then you get attack defense snag, which can throw debuffs on the opposing team, and then you get, I've got even defense and res wave. Really what I'm trying to get is full buffs on this unit, so that he can, give those out to other people and give true damage out as well. That's going to be very, very important for this unit. That's okay. I'll be honest, it's just not the way you're going to want to build this unit. This is this unit. And I have been doing something similar with Emir. Emir has miracle support, but this unit can run barricade because, Emir can't run anything in her C skill because that's where the miracle is. So you have Nimble Beast, and that's really just for survivability. The Micaiah Ring, because fun things happen with the Micaiah Ring. Attack Speed Fortune, because you really want this unit to be transformed. And then Speed Defense Detect. So, this is kind of fun because then you're going to throw exposure on the other team mid-turn as well, and still be able to move into position to where this unit is within 3 of whatever unit you're trying to get to attack. I have been using this with Emir, where I'll actually do that, do a repo or a swap, whichever one I've got on there, and then I will take her and move her forward so that she gives miracle to whatever nuke is going on. You could do something similar with this unit, but get more true damage. Barricade is nice because it stops warping and can be really pivotal in trying to run away. So hit and run, which is a very powerful strategy right now with Safety Fence 7 up. So odd res wave is just to give extra res so that everything is buffed, and this unit is good to go. Like, this is nice. Essentially, you're giving your teammate 22 true damage. That is, that's pretty respectable. Like I'll take that. So yeah, this is a nice way to use this unit, and this unit will be able to attack things. I didn't do any kind of stat analysis because I don't think it's necessary. I think the biggest thing you're going to want to use this unit for is support. This unit is one that I do think gets a lot of benefit out of the premium build. So if you are a new Year Kaden fan, I think this is worth a look, depending on what you have in your barracks, obviously, but this is quite nice. All right, last thing I want to talk about is the upcoming refines, and this is interesting. All of this, I can't take credit for any of this. This is all done by Albert in the Discord, and he has an amazing job. What I will say, understand, Albert has put a ton of thought into this, but IS is IS, and that doesn't mean that these are a given. Just understand that these are guesses, these are projections. But the thing you want to pay attention to is the possibility of seasonal dancers getting refines, and that is an interesting prospect. I did a count. There are 34 dancers that have been passed over for refines. So this being, if they really do this is an interesting thing to be on the lookout for. But here is your batch. If you are waiting patiently and wondering what's coming next, this is a good guess. Just keep in mind that IS does some wacky things. If you want my thoughts on the last banner, I have that linked up here. You can go check that out. I have damage analysis and all of that great stuff. Members, you are amazing. Thank you for all you do, and schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon.